Hello and welcome to Coding with Stephen. Today we're going to be running through one of our JavaScript basics challenges, array contains item. Before we get started, there's a bunch of instructions here in front of me which will help you get your development environment set up exactly like mine is, and also show you how to get everything set up so that you can run all the tests and everything like that associated with these challenges. I'll leave a link to this setup in the description of the video so you can get it all downloaded and get yourself set up as you need to. But let's get started. So we'll head over to the instructions file to begin with for this array contains item challenge, and this will give us a set of instructions on what we need to do, as well as provide some hints as to what functions and things like that might be useful to complete the challenge. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a function called array contains item. The function takes two arguments, an array, which is an array of items, and an item. Now, the function should return true if the item exists within the array. For the sake of the challenge, the item will only be either a string, a number, or a Boolean type. So these are relatively simple comparisons compared to things like objects or arrays and things like that. So all we're going to need to do is just fill in the code, and then we'll be able to run through our tests just to see that they pass. When we run through them initially, they're going to be failing because obviously we haven't completed any of the code. So let's head over and do that now. So there's a couple of ways that you can run through this challenge quite easily. The first of which is using a built-in operator for arrays called includes, and that will tell you if an item exists within an array. So what that would look like is you'll have array.includes, and then you can actually just pass item, and that would just say look over the array, and if this item exists, return true or return false if it doesn't. So that should be simple enough, and we'll be able to run the test and we'll get 6 passing tests. So that works really nicely for kind of simple requirements where you're just looking for a single item within an array that looks like a fairly simple structure. I'll show you another way of running through this as well, which is using a find method within an array. So when you use the find method, it will return as soon as it finds that item within the array. So it's quite a fast operation against an array compared to just iterating over all items, because it'll return at an earlier point. But it also gives you a little bit more access to be able to see, to introspect items or pass in more complex search criteria. So let's have a look at how an array.find would work. So I'll just get rid of this for the moment. So array.find looks like this. And it takes a function which takes a property which you're going to be searching for within the array. So we'll just pass this. So array item. So every iteration over the array item is what you'll be using to compare against to see if it exists or not. Now, for the sake of our simple challenge, all we need to do is check that the array item equals exactly to the item that we're looking for. And that's a fairly simple operation. So what we can do is we can wrap that in an if statement, and we can say if that's true, then we'll return true. But if it, after iterating over all of them, it doesn't actually find any, then we'll just return false. And then when we run through our tests again, we'll notice that we'll get 6 passing tests. Now, where this becomes particularly useful is if you have, say, a particularly complex object where, let's say, you have a user that you're trying to see if a user exists within an array, and let's say a user has an email property which is a sub-property, and that email would be something like me@test.com. So obviously a user may actually have a whole bunch of other fields as well that you don't actually care about. So you're just trying to find the one user that actually exists that's got that email. So what you can do is you can search over the array, and using a find, you can then turn around and say, does the array item dot email equal user dot email? So this find operation allows you to do slightly more complex lookups or assertions when it comes to the find operations that you want to run against it. So for anything that's a little bit more complex than just finding strings, integers or Boolean values, then that will be a really good go-to command for you to be working with as well. But what we'll do is we'll just revert this back, and we'll just go back to our array.includes. We'll save that. Run our tests again just to make sure we're all good, and once you get 6 passing tests back, you should be good to go.